Thank you for joining me here on Citizen Operating Systems, where we always work to upgrade our hardware and our software to become better citizen operators. In this video, I'm going to overview what I call my Scout sleep system. This sleeping system is something I built around a small hammock because I'm an avid hammock camper and sleeper, and if I have the choice to choose my hammock versus even a very lovely guest room, I'm going to choose my hammock. What I love about sleeping in hammocks is over the years, it's become more familiar than any other sort of bed, other than that wherever I live at any given time. So I noticed that when I travel and I sleep in my hammock, I really cut down on the adjustment period of being comfortable sleeping. A lot of times, if I don't have that option and I have to sleep in a bed or a strange room, again, no matter how wonderful and lovely it is, it can still be very difficult to sleep, especially the first night, first 2 nights. I find that if I sleep in my own hammock, in my own system, I'm a lot more comfortable a lot sooner, and I get a better night's sleep. So this is meant to be a system that is quickly put up and quickly taken down, and also one that is for most weather, but not heavy storm weather, and that offers some concealment options. It is windy today, so please bear with the wind sound in the mic. So the idea with this system is I don't have to be out very long, but I might have to be out somewhere where I do not want to be seen and where I still need to be able to sleep overnight. You'll notice when I start opening this, it's got a couple components, and this is why I am okay with it being a little heavier. It's not an ultralight setup. It's about 3 kilos, just under 3 kilos, about 6.5 pounds. So definitely not the lightest system out there, but for me and for the purposes that this particular setup is meant for, it's pretty perfect. So let's go ahead and put it up. So even though I keep this setup in a compression sack, I often don't cinch it down as far as possible. I find that no matter how good the sack is, a lot of times that will over time create more failures in it, and the smaller, oddly shaped, compact material, for me, doesn't pack as well as something like this. Right now, this has been hanging, when I use it, underneath a standard size backpack. So if I go over here to my pack, you can see I can hang it off of various ways right there, and it all works out. So I don't make these things very tight on purpose. It also just keeps things a little more lofty, a little bit easier to access. So if I open this up here, the first thing on top is going to be the straps, because before anything else, I need to be able to put my hammock on something so it doesn't hit the ground, especially in stormy weather where it's raining and the wind is going. I want to be fast and simple. So I keep my straps in just this sleeve, regular old like athletic type sleeve. And then I have two options here. This option is better for trees. It's more healthy for them to have a nice wide platform. I'm not a huge fan of how it's lightly colored, but unlike a lot of my other straps, these ones are not reflective on purpose. That's a big deal when I'm thinking about concealed sleeping, staying in and being unseen. I'm going to definitely need something that's not going to be very obvious, very bright, or react to white light, the same way that other materials would. So this is my best option right now. I am going to be creating an all black webbing strap system very soon for myself. Just something I haven't done yet. So those are the main straps that I'll be putting up. And then these are whoopie slings. Now these are actually really great for the former reason, is they're not very visible, especially at night, especially with other things around. And they can act as extensions for my primary straps if, unlike right here where I have trees almost too close together, if I have points of contact that are much further apart for these straps in tandem with these straps, or if I have obstacles or objects that I'm using that are not organic, so like poles, pipes, even crags and rocks and these types of things, this can work great. If you're not familiar with whoopie slings, essentially this is a cordage called ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. That is the material, and then there's a couple different companies that sell this under their own names. So the two big ones are Dyneema and Spectra. I believe this is from Amsteel as well. So there's a lot of places that sell this sort of stuff. But what this is, unlike the strap, which is a little more standard fare, is this is a hollow cord cordage, and this stuff is as strong as steel and the same diameter. So if I show you here what it is, it's hollow cord. So if I push this, there's space in the center. So to create these, and these are ones that I did make myself, with a little bit of tenacity and some time, essentially what you get is a strap where the material is sunk on itself, and that section that is within itself is what creates the tension enough to hold up. So I can pull this here. I know it's not focusing very well. I can pull this here, and I can make my loop smaller or larger depending. So I'm not going to use these today. These trees are quite close together, and so I don't need to use these as extensions. And again, because the tight, I won't be here long today, but over time, this narrow stuff, really, trees are not a fan. And I don't think you would be either if you were getting strangled to death slowly over time because some human wanted to sleep. So let's go ahead and throw this stuff up. Okay, so the main straps are up, and actually just to show, if you haven't seen whoopie slings before, I'm going to put those up as well just for the demonstration, even though I'm not going to actually be using them today. So I'm always going to put a standing loop in one end that will not be adjusted, and then a large adjustable loop. When I put this around the tree, I'm going to put the adjustable loop through the non-adjustable loop. And then once I decide what my hammock setup needs to be, I can take this loop and cinch it down or let it out, as long as I have enough of this tail to use, and the friction of it being inside itself holds it. This is my medium length set of these whoopie slings. I also have a very, very long one that I made mostly for the tarps, if I use a large tarp, and then a very, very short one that I keep in my day pack, my EDC as it were, because you never know when you need some cordage, or some very strong cordage, or something that's going to be adjustable. Okay, now the moment of truth. I've left just a couple sections to attach to here, a few more here based on the tree size, and then everything else in the setup, or almost everything else, is packed just to put out. So I have here what I always keep as my head end at the top. I think today for this setup, my head end will be on this side. So go ahead and put my head up here, and then I can let out my sweep system from the bag until I get to the foot. So as quickly as that, I have a pretty ready to rock system. Clearly it's windy, and so there's a couple elements I will go through as far as the layers, but that is that, and that's why I call this my Scout setup, is because it's fast to put up. When I put it back, you'll see I'm just slowly stuffing it back into that bag and calling it good. So let's take a look at the layers and the components that make this a really versatile way to go when thinking about a 3-season, or depending on who you are, 4-season setup. Okay, so the top layer is basically, if you know, you really know. This is a poncho, a standard US military issued poncho, and you'll see here that in the center there is a hood. So this is one of the first best things about this particular system is if there's nowhere to hang, if it's just inclement weather and I just need an extra layer, this poncho is right here. I can quickly unclip it from each side. Yes, I do have to take the whole hammock out of that bag, but ultimately it's still very quick to pull it out, put everything back in, and put that on to hunker down, and there's nowhere to hang. As far as using it as a tarp, there's a couple nice things about ponchos if you don't know them. They have grommets in the corners, and you'll see here there's some points for tie out, so this can easily become a small tarp for the standard hammock camping style. I also sometimes will just take the outer layer, depending on where I'm at, and just make an extra cocoon, like one less cocoon on the outside, and tie those together there. And so that completely holds everything in, holds heat in, obviously also holds moisture in, but these are the trade-offs we're making for being more comfortable overall. So that is why the outside layer is here. And then for rain sleeping, clearly I didn't have the hood inside and cinched down, so I'll do that now. I'll pull it through, make it nice and tight, as tight as possible. And then these come with a toggle, some variation of toggle, to be able to hold that in place. So that is the outer system. Got the standard Woodland Camo on that, and then let's look at the next layer. So the next layer is actually a cocoon that I made, or a hammock sock that I made out of silnylon. Silnylon is silicone impregnated nylon. It's water resistant up to a point, mostly waterproof, you could say. And this is here as both a water barrier and a wind barrier, because it does stop the wind a bit. This is something I made. I had the material for ages and ages before I had the sewing machine, so it's actually relatively new. I haven't gotten to put it through the the gauntlet of super rainy weather, but knowing the material itself and knowing what I'm going for and being very familiar with my hammock camping setup, I'm sure this is going to do exactly what I needed to do. So a little bit of barrier there, and that zips all the way from the foot to the head. Another note about this piece that I created is that it has shock cord for now. I'd rather have a non-elastic cord eventually, but because it's a gather style, if I really want to, I can take all this extra shock cord, uncinch it, and have this long piece to act as a secondary tarp to use in conjunction with the poncho. So basically there's 2 tarping options right here, which could be 2 shelters, one for me, one for someone else, or it could just be a 2-layered shelter of other kinds, again, without even having the ability to hang. Looking at the layer directly inside the sock, the silnylon sock, is a warmth oriented cocoon. Now this, you can see, looks very much like just a sleeping bag. It's not exactly an underquilt, it's not an overquilt, it's actually another poncho. I've had a lot of One Tigress gear over the years. In fact, I first started with their cocoon for their hammock for my first ready-made hammock cocoon. Before it became popular to sleep in hammocks and use your insulation on the outside, we would just use our various sleeping bags and different setups to create whatever cocoon sleeping system. So it's funny, I always meant to make a video of my original setup, never actually did, and now we're here to where I can get ready-made equipment that is designed for what my use is. Now this is actually designed as a poncho, so you can see here there's a hood. It comes out. Currently it's zipped up or unzipped, but around the hammock, because it becomes a cocoon or a sleeping bag. But just like the regular poncho, it can come out, and this has polyester batting within it, so it does hold in warmth. I've not yet got to test this either in very rainy weather, so I assume it's relatively water resistant, but not, let's say, as great as something like this or the actual poncho. But unlike a regular whoopie or poncho liner, this actually has a hood and it's shaped the same way as the poncho. So if I need to, if I want to, or if this is what's necessary for my sleeping setup for the night, is without the hammock entirely, I can throw this on, I can throw the poncho over it, and then wrap my entire self in this and call it good for the night. The other neat thing about this not quite cocoon, poncho hybrid is it does have a zipper. So there's a zipper here. There's a few straps for when you are wearing it to hold it to your body. There's a couple little tie outs here. One thing about the one tigress, and this happened on my initial cocoon too, is sometimes the stitching is not the greatest. I'm just gonna say that it's not your heavy duty high speed super awesome stuff, but also the price point is not not that either. So it's a good in between. But I did notice like right away one of these little tie outs ripped off of this, and the same thing had happened to my cocoon, which I don't think they make or sell anymore when I first got it. So you'll see also that this has a pocket because it is a poncho. So even though it's in cocoon setup, I can still put things in that pocket while I'm sleeping, just to kind of keep some sort of organization or compartmentalization while I'm sleeping. And often, or most of the times, when I'm staying overnight, my shoes and things go actually in the whatever is the next level out, so that they stay dry, bug free, and stay accessible and warm for when I need to get up and put them back on. Okay, so I'm going to get this all cinched back down, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like when I'm in the setup. I'll go through the end options that I have in that pack and call it a video. Alright, so since I'm just here for the day and just to hang out, I'm not going to tie out the poncho into a tarp. However, if I were staying overnight or was staying out for more than one night, I would absolutely find a different way to put this up so that it's situated appropriately for this sort of wind. Keep in mind too that this can also just be put up on the tree as a blind, so from just one direction. Part of this hang situation, even though I'm in a public park, I've got this sort of divot on the hill here with the camera on top of the hill. So once this is over and everything's on, honestly, it's not as easy to see from that side as it might otherwise be. And then also keep in mind that with this setup, this can be hung much higher too. This under area is very open now, again, public park. I did use this and test it where there was more underbrush, or where there is more underbrush, and you'll see that it's a lot more concealable and natural in those environments. But even here, if I was worried about being easily seen over the horizon, especially again at night, I would just hang this higher where I have a better canopy surrounding, and then take care to climb up into it from there. So just like the judo mats, shoes off. I'm actually really excited for this part because I want to lay down. I want to lay down, I want to take a nap. It sounds very nice, and I am very excited to be in this cozy situation. Okay, so as usual, depending on the situation, sometimes I have a large tarp with a ridge line, and I'll hang my shoes somewhere underneath that on the hammock itself. In this case, it's meant to be a lot more compact of a setup, so I'm going to take my shoes, and they get to be, during sleeping times, not on the ground, especially higher up, but in this area here. What's also nice about this is the silnylon is easier to wash than many other fabrics, so I can just wipe that down if ever I feel like it gets too gross. Okay. So I usually start with some zipping systems, one and then the other. So another thing about the one tigress in particular, but also with a lot of other bags and sort of cocoon systems, is sometimes the fabric gets caught in the zipper. So the best way to avoid that is to add some tension on the fabric in the direction that you're zipping, and then zip it up really consciously that way. And this does have a zipper for both sides. When I made this, I did not have that. In fact, I took the zipper from my previous cocoon setup, which was a really cheap Amazon sleeping bag that I took the batting out of just for the water-resistant properties. But it served me well, and the zipper is still serving me very well. So get myself mostly situated there. By the way, this does zip over my head, and I'll show that now. And at the end, I go ahead and put this over, or it's already tied around itself with some shock cord, something that stretches so I can fit myself under, or it's tied out. And then I get myself all cozy and cinched down here. I'll tell you right now, even though I just did the initial zipping up, I'm already a lot cozier than I just was being out in the wind. Alright, fully zipped up, hanging out. The one thing I guess I neglected to say was this internal hammock is a Hammock single person hammock. This is actually their old version, the Wallaby, which is now called the Roo Single. And I am very tempted to give up on this video and just stay here. But I'll do that after I finish. So let's let myself out. By the way, I cannot feel the wind at all in here. I know it's happening because I can hear it, but I am not being chilled at any part of my body, not feet or anywhere like that. So that's the Scout sleep system, and it's awesome. I still really want to take it out in colder weather this time of year. Let's see, today it's like 9 degrees Celsius right now, about 48 Fahrenheit, and then the nighttime is about 1 degree, or that's the forecast is for about 1 degree. So I think I have confidence that I could be comfortable in this overnight in this autumn weather with this setup, which I will be actually testing for real pretty soon in the next couple weeks. So I can always make updates after that. But for what it is and for what it packs down to, hopefully you can understand how very versatile this little system is. There's one more thing I want to show. Well, two more things I should show: the actual hammock, and then some extras that are in that bag, just because. Okay, as promised, inside here is the Hammock Wallaby. They have since redesigned the stuff sack, and it's even more awesome and compact, but otherwise the same. I have this customized system inside there. I do have a really nice, larger camping hammock with a bug net and all this, and honestly, it's beautiful and amazing, but it packs down too big for what I've been traveling with over the last couple of years, and it would take about a third of this stuff sack versus all of this that fits in here. Not to mention, I have two additional pieces inside the sack. I have this item and this item, and there still is a little extra room if I wanted to put something else in there. So let's take a look at what these are and how I would use them. So each of these are a concealment option based on the vegetation around me. They're both around the same size, and they are essentially rectangles of concealment here. So I'm just going to throw this on really quickly. Again, these are similar to the Poncho. If I wanted to and had the ability to, I could use this as a blind instead of putting it directly on the sleeping system. So it could be a panel somewhere to either side of the hammock. So we have it here in the setup where it would be on the hammock, or again, if this is being pitched higher, then this concealment could be underneath the sleep system, so that looking up can be a little bit harder to be discerned from that position. So we have the much lighter one. In this environment currently, this is a little bit too bright for not having the vegetation around, but if looking from that side to this side, it should be fine. And then so I also have a secondary option that is of a darker pattern and also fits very well in my local environment, which is the Pacific Northwest of the USA, here in Seattle, literally in the middle of the city right now at Gasworks Park. Okay, so you can probably see that at least for these trees in this little cedar grove, this could be a little bit better, again, especially at night, in the dark, when someone is shining white light to try and see. Let's take a closer look at these colors here. So pretty much the same as what's on the ground right now in this area, and you can see with the grass, same idea with this one. So when I do use them, I always use them layered, because that layering gives some depth, which assists in the notion that no one is there, that's not a person-shaped thing or a hammock-shaped thing. And that's it. That is my Scout Sleep system. So that's really it. If you have already messed around with sleep systems, you probably have a lot of ideas from this too. I said before that this itself could be also tied out to the ground, it could be put underneath, it could be layered with something else, or left entirely in the bag. But ultimately, it gives me a really nice platform to have a lot of options for one single package. Now, the reason I put these in last is because if I don't want to use them, and if I want to access the poncho a lot easier, then that would take the discombobulating of these first. So I'm thinking not just putting it up and getting in, but how quickly can I get to the things that I want to use? Say the waterproof poncho and then the warmth one. That's going to take a little more time to get both together. That's what I was going to do with those things. But ultimately, I've been really happy with this. I'm really looking forward to spending more nights in it, and just being ready to sleep. Sleep is one of my favorite things of all time, ever. I love sleeping. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to take a nap here at the park. Not the best time. It's a Saturday. Everyone's here. It's loud. So we'll see what I do with that. But to put this away, which I'm not going to do quite yet, what I would do is take the concealment off, take the foot piece, unhook that, and then gradually step. Let's do it from the side. I would here. Yes, gradually step and push and slide and gather everything into here. In fact, as far as talking about what will be in the future, is I do want to create essentially a snake skin or a sheath, we'll say, two-part sheath for the entire system to make it much easier to pack away. So that will be probably more silnylon or something similar, that where there's going to be one side that comes around and gathers it a little bit tighter, and then gathers that same from that side, and then I can coil that back in this bag. So for now, this is more than adequate. This is perfect, and I am very, very excited to lay down in it very soon. With that, thank you so much for tuning in. Hopefully you had some ideas, or enjoyed at least this whole situation. I know I did. I love thinking about different options and having a lot of available options. Utility is key for me, and certainly even though a lot of these components are very simple components, I think that they are in tandem a lot more valuable than something that is a lot more complex and fancy in just one piece. So for example, that great camping hammock I have that I mentioned before, it's got all these bells and whistles, but if I don't carry it, then it doesn't do me any good anyway. So that's that. How do I end this? How do I end this? And that's it. Thank you so much for joining me on this video to see my Scout sleep system. Over time, like anything else, I'm sure I'm going to keep adding, subtracting, and changing elements, and that's how it always should be. We never want to get stagnant, not with our equipment, not with our mindset, not with our abilities or our skills, and this is the same thing. In the future, I'm going to be practicing more, putting out the concealments, hanging it higher, etc., so that I know I have as many opportunities to do the task I need to do in any environment that I need to do it. With that, happy sleeping, happy training, and be safe.